Hi guys, Fabio Palvelli here with the D2 conference. At D2, we believe in bringing you the right content for you to keep learning and keep growing in the field of archviz so that you as an artist can unlock your true creative potential. This is why we have designed the Inspiration series, a small collection of talks done to help you connect the creativity dots in and out of our professional field. If this is your first time here on our channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like our videos, feel free to share them with your friends and colleagues. It will mean the world to us. This time on the show I have Mr. Mike Winckelmann, aka Beeple. Beeple has been one of my biggest inspiration in my career. I was very interested to talk to him about discipline and motivation, and I think a man that has made at least one artwork a day without a break for about 12 years now, well, I guess he knows a lot of stuff that can be beneficial for you guys looking for some artistic motivation. The conversation is very open between us and some strong language is used, so the viewer's discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Beeple. 3, 2, 1, and we're recording. Mike, thanks a lot for taking the time, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm not sure whether or not I should make an introduction about you, because I'm guessing that if somebody doesn't know you, it's probably because they were born yesterday.
I'm not sure about that.
But I'll just do it, okay? I'll just do it, and let's see if I do any good. So I copied that from your website. Beeple is Mike Winckelmann. Is that right?
That's true. That is true. So far, so good.
He makes a variety of art crap across a variety of media. Some of it is okay, but a lot of it kind of blows ass.
Yep, also true. So far, so good.
He's working on making it suck less every day, though, so bear with him. I disagree. I think Beeple is a genius, and I'm going to prove it to you today, guys.
I'm not sure about that last part.
So Mike, thanks a lot for taking the time. I know that you're very busy and we've been already talking for like 15 minutes. So I feel like obliged not to waste your time. I want to start this interview by asking you a question that I'm sure nobody has ever asked you before.
Sure.
How does someone make a different artwork every single day for more than 10 years?
I think it's so tough because I have been asked that quite a few times, and I just don't have that good of an answer for it, to be honest. Because I think it's just a matter of sitting down and sort of committing to put out something. I think that's the thing that maybe people don't realize, is that it's not, I think they think that it's like, I got to come up with a great idea every day. It's like, no, you literally just have to post a JPEG every day. Like, it can be total shit, but it's like, it's just the act of putting out something. So I think sort of taking the expectation level down a bit for what you're going to do each day is a big part of being able to just stick with it.
But, you know, in a way, like, I do see that some of your work maybe really respects that. Like, you know that you have to do it and you will push yourself and it will be something simple. But then I see things that are, very complex and animated and, and there is so much work to it. I think
Sure.
It's legit for some people to say, what the fuck? How did this guy do this? In like a day.
I think, there's definitely a lot of, there's definitely times where I'm inspired to sort of like, kind of put a lot more in. And I think it's different levels. Like there's times where I'm like, inspired and have some time to put towards it. And there's times where I'm like, a little inspired, and then it kind of, you got a brief inspiration for about 10 minutes. And then it's like, meh. Okay, I just got to get this done. So I think it's different each day, but yeah, and that's where I think that if you're working every day, you're going to have a lot more days where you do feel inspired, just because you've got a lot more chances at bat. You've got a lot more sort of just times where something cool or there might be some sort of happy accident that comes out of it. So I think it's a numbers game. A big part of it is.
Yeah, I agree with this statement. There are times where I try to really push myself like continuously, and I see that the outcomes, they gradually become better and better. But to a certain extent, I guess that you have really mastered that. Like, very often I look at your work and I'm like, I wonder how much of this was started because of inspiration, and then you just, realized halfway that this was going to be terrible, and you just forced your way through, you know what I mean?
I think usually I don't realize it's going to be terrible. I'm trying like real hard. I run out of time, I think is the biggest thing, where I almost always sort of like run out of time, where it's like, oh, if I could change this, and this, like it'd be so much better. It's like I can kind of see how it could be better, but I just don't have time, or a lot of times I just don't have the like skill set to like make it better. It's like, this part of it, like I know this color is shitty, or this like the values aren't good or whatever, but I just can't make it better. I just don't have those skills to make it better. So I think there's not too many times where I'm like, it's more like when I step back afterwards where I'm like, this blows. Like it's not, I'm usually fairly optimistic while I'm making it, I guess. Because if it's totally not working, then I'm like, then it's this like sort of panic to like, okay, well I have to post it. So I gotta try and fucking make this like work on some level. And I think that's where having these like, having a deadline every single day will like, and posting it publicly, it makes it so that it's sort of like, okay, well this is gonna be fucking embarrassing if I just post something that's an absolute fucking pile of garbage. And sometimes that can be, it can be good or bad, because it can make you, on some level, less likely to sort of experiment. And I think that's something you need to be cognizant of if you're doing every day, is that it's sort of like not to get stuck in a rut just because it's safe and you know it, and you're not going to post something embarrassing, that you need to try and sort of push yourself to try new things, even if it might suck, even if it might turn out shitty, that's how you're going to like learn and progress. But I think the fear of posting something embarrassing is definitely very powerful and very motivating.
There is a certain strength to the idea of the stop thinking about it, just do something, instead of like thinking and say, oh, maybe one day.
Yeah.
It's like, act now.
No, for sure. And that's the thing. I mean, I feel like I can totally get that mindset, because there's other projects that I am in the exact same boat. Like, I am trying fucking desperately to finish this stupid short film, and it's fucking killing me, and it's just like, I don't have a concrete deadline, so it's just this fucking rolling thing that's been going forever, and it's just like a fucking, ugh. So it's like I totally get like that other mindset as well. I feel like my motivation, or my like, this is solely just for the everydays. I'm in every other project, I'm just struggle just like anybody else with like deadlines and fucking like getting shit done, and what the fuck am I doing, and doubting, and blah blah blah. So yeah.
Mike, listen, we're both married, okay?
That's true.
You have kids. I don't have kids. I'm just, trying to figure out how family gets into the way of your work, and how your work gets into the way of your family. Like, has your wife ever stopped you because you were working, or like you had to get off the computer? Like my wife, sometimes we're like getting ready to go somewhere, and she stops talking. She just starts throwing stuff at me.
I think it helps that my wife I mean, one, not that your wife is not supportive, but my wife is like insanely supportive. That's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is she stays at home with the kids, and so I'm home all day. I rarely, if I travel, I do travel sometimes, but a lot of times, you know, if I'm taking a bigger trip, I'll take the whole family. So I'm usually not gone for, you know, long periods. There's not a huge amount that I have to travel, you know, without her. So I'm like around the kids like a lot. Like I see, even if I just had a regular 9-to-5 job and was working 40 hours a week, which I work way more than that, but if I was gone and had to go into an office, I would still see the kids less. Because it's like I'd be gone before they get up in the morning, and then, you know, I wouldn't be there for lunch, versus now I'm here for fucking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like, put them to bed, like, so I see the kids a lot. I think that the thing that helps with like family stuff and having the people around you sort of you know, kind of help you with this instead of, you know, kind of looking at it like a detriment, is if you're flexible and you try and work around everybody else's schedule, and you realize that this is like a big time commitment, which it absolutely is. And you're like flexible about, like, you know, when you're gonna do it, and like if you get interrupted, that it's not like, oh my God, how dare you interrupt me when I'm in my artist zone. Like, you can't be a dick like that. You gotta just be like, okay, yeah, let's go change a fucking poopy diaper, let's whatever. Like, you need to be, you know, the more flexible you are with it, the more other people will be flexible with, like, you know, with you with it, I guess.
I totally agree, and I think that, you know, you're bringing up a lot of good points. You know, when I talk to artists that are looking for like guidance, I notice very often this complete unbalance in terms of like how to manage, you know, their passion for 3D versus, say, you know, how they manage their free time. And it's like 100% into one thing, and there is no how do you want to call it, like, you know, they're not able to think of anything else, and they become also like slaves of their own, you know, perception of what a 3D artist should be. But I like this about you because, you know, like I follow your social media, and I know that you're a family man. How many kids do you have now?
We've got 2 kids. We're definitely done. There's no more to this. This isn't like we're having a fucking million kids. We've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Now he just turned 3. 3-year-old. But yeah, I would say with that, the one area where I would say I'm not that balanced is I almost never, like, we moved to Charleston about a year and a half ago, and like, I don't know anybody in this city. Like, I don't get out very much, to be quite honest. Like, I spend a lot of time with my family, but I spend almost no time with friends. Like, I see my friends, like, at conferences and stuff like that, and when we go home. But beyond that, I have no friends in Charleston. I don't know anybody in Charleston. So it's pretty much, like, that would probably be, if I had to say, the one thing that I've cut out a lot to sort of like make room for this is hanging out with friends. It's very, very rare.
But don't you think it's also a consequence of the fact that, you know, in a way, I think that you're in love with what you do, right? You're in love with your persona, and not in a hedonistic way. It's like you manage to do stuff that, you know, you enjoy doing. And sometimes, you know, when you talk about it with other people and you realize that, you know, other people, they just do 9 to 5 because they have to pay bills. And I'm like, this is fucking frustrating to have a conversation with a person like this, you know?
I mean, I can get that. I get that. Like, I think everybody's got different priorities, and I can get people who kind of just have a job and their job is whatever. Like, I can relate to that. I think but at the same time, yeah, you're right. Like, there's, you know, it's a Saturday night and I'm sitting at the fucking computer because I really fucking like this shit. I really enjoy, like, making stuff. And there's, you know, times where I'll have an idea for something and it's like, oh God, like, I really fucking want to do this. So I think, people, for the large part, like, people try to pretend like they don't. I think people try to pretend like they're not doing what they want to do, but I think a lot of people are doing more what they want to do than they kind of let on. Like, if people are not doing a bunch of work and they're hanging out with their friends or whatever, that's probably what they actually want to do. And the people who are putting in like a shit ton of work and not hanging out with friends, maybe that's probably what they actually want to do. I think people try and like convince themselves that it's like, oh, I should be working, I want to be working, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but do you? Maybe you really just don't want to be working more. Maybe you just want to be hanging out with your friends, which is fine. Like, I don't know. That's fine. Like, you should do what you fucking want. Life's short. Like, I don't know.
Okay, listen, I just have to make this little interruption because by now probably people have already figured out that you're a very funny person and you swear a lot when you talk.
I do swear a lot.
By Italian standards, this is so totally acceptable. Like in the Italian language, we have conjunctions which are like motherfucker, cocksucker, and it's like we use them like this. But anyway, does this ever get like into your in your way? Like, do people get offended, people that you work with, or does it ever get in your way, your personality? And I'm asking this not because I think it's a bad thing, but
sure.
I just fear that, a lot of people, they don't behave the way they're supposed to be, like they're not natural in their behavior. And very often, especially in the in work and professional life, when we go to meetings, it always feels like that they're not being themselves. And I think that one of the reasons why everybody likes you is because you are yourself 100%. I might be deceived. Expand on that, please.
I would say I don't usually get too much pushback because I think luckily I'm in a profession where it's a little more laid back, and kind of people expect an artist to sort of like, oh, he's an artist. Like, there's a little more leeway for like weirdness, I feel like. And I feel like I'm like actually pretty tame in terms of like, I've been around some like artists that are like pretty fucking weird, where it's like, okay, you're just a weird dude in general. Or just like, or people who are like assholes too. So I feel like as long as there's like as long as you're not an asshole, like that's way more important than if you're somebody who people can get along with and you're not like a fucking jerk to work with. Like, that's going to hold you back way more than, a little bit of swearing or whatever. So yeah, there's been a few talks that I've done where people have, kind of like written on their little comment cards afterwards. It's like, you swore too much or blah, blah, blah. But it's like, whatever. Like, you could have fucking got up and walked out. Like, you're just going to sit there and like, oh, I can't hear this. Shut the fuck up. Like, that's just like, I feel like there's a lot of like people playing the victim and like, oh, I'm a victim. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't know. So it's been, for the most part, there's very little sort of pushback that I experience on a daily basis, I guess.
Mike, this was beautiful. I cannot wait to watch this interview again and just laugh. Listen, I want to ask you something, and, we're taking a couple of step backs. I should have asked you this question a little bit earlier, but is there any episodes where you remember that, you got in trouble because of your everydays, or any memorable thing that happened because of you doing these artworks every day?
Not really. I'm trying to think. No, it's usually, it's kind of that I've sort of fitted around life. So that's the other thing is you're there's days that are going to be weird, or there's days where you got a lot of other work shit, and I think the biggest thing is to be flexible and sort of fit it, or if you want it to be part of your life, then you need to be like flexible. It's not like with anything else. It's not like every day you're like, nope, I fucking brush my teeth at 1 p.m. every day. Like, that's fucking it. I don't care what's going on. At 1 p.m. I'm going to brush my teeth. It's like, no, you fucking brush your teeth when you brush your teeth. Like, sometimes you do it, you know, at 9 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's 9:30, like, whatever. Like, it's, you know what I mean? So I think it's, you know, if you want it to last, you need to be sort of flexible about when you do it, how much time you spend on it. There could be a day where it's like, oh, man, I've got this great idea, but it's going to take super long. It's like, well, I'm not doing it today because I don't have that much time. So being flexible about that, too, you know, where you do it, you know, those are all things that are going to, like, keep it from being a thing that people push back against.
Does it ever get boring for you? Like, do you ever wonder if that's enough, you know? You're gonna stop and you're just gonna... That was it, you know? It's I don't want to do it anymore. And please don't quit after this interview.
No, that's it. I'm out. Does it get boring? Yes. There's definitely times where, there's lots of times where it's like, I don't want to do it. Tonight, I don't really want to do it. I got to get up really early tomorrow morning. I would rather just, like, watch an episode of something and not do it. But I think, you know, is there a chance, or the other part of the question, is there a time where I've, like, seriously thought of, like, just not doing it or, like, stopping? Not really. Because I still feel like there's so much to learn, and there's so much that I really want to get better at, and that I feel like I really suck at, that it's like, oh man, I see other artists, especially like concept artists, who are like just really, really good at creating very sort of like photoreal things and really, you know, imaginative concepts and stuff like that, that it's like, I feel like I still have a really, you know, long ways to go. So it's, and I still feel like I'm like progressing. So I feel like it's still working to help get me better. So it doesn't seem like, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to stop anytime soon. It might be a while still here. We might have a bit left.
This is very inspiring, really. Like, I honestly don't know anybody else who has been, you know, so consistent and so, I don't know, very high standards for such a long time. I'm like...
I appreciate that.
I really look at my work and I'm like... And, you know, I really hope that this can motivate others to say, okay, you know, from now on, no more shit. We just work really, really hard. Because if there is somebody that can do this for 10 years, can I do fucking a better artwork every month for at least a year? You know what I mean?
Sure.
In terms of inspiration, like, you have a very specific style, and later on we're gonna expand a little bit on that, but where do you get your inspiration from?
I think I get it a lot just from other people's artwork. I'd say more than anything, it's other people's artwork. Looking at stuff and looking at, you know, people's designs, or, you know, across a variety of mediums. Some painters, some people who do, you know, architecture design, some people who do product design, people who just do like film, graphic design. So I think across a bunch of different medium, but it's mostly other people's sort of artwork that is, I look at and I see something where it's like, oh man, that one little idea, or sometimes it's just like inspiring just because they're so fucking good that it's like, oh man, I gotta like fucking like level the fuck up here. This is like so awesome. Or, you know, just certain aspects of it, that their color is really good, or certain ideas. So I think it really is, I'm definitely inspired mostly by other artists.
It's crazy that you say this, because I guess that anybody who has got into daily projects, they've done it because they were at one point inspired by you. You know what I mean?
Maybe a little. I mean, that's the thing. I think there's so many people doing them now that I think there's a lot of people who, you know, maybe they were inspired by their friend who started doing it. So, you know, it's one of these things where and to be honest, I was inspired by somebody else who was doing it every day. So I think it's just I think it's one of these things where there's always, somebody who came before you who kind of, is an inspiration for the next sort of group of people or whatever.
Is that person that inspired you still doing everydays?
No, they did a year of sketches. His name's Tom Judd, and he was he's an illustrator. I think he's got a studio called Animade, out of, I believe, London. And I've never met him, and I haven't like followed their work that much. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff they've done, which is really cool, but yeah, he did sketches for, I think he did two rounds of 1 year, I think in like 2006, 2005, somewhere around there.
At that time, though, you were not posting your work on social media, or am I wrong?
No, I mean, when I started doing everydays, it was 2007, and so it was sort of like, I definitely wasn't posting it on like social media, because they're really like, Facebook was just starting to kind of like gather steam. I think I'd done everydays for over a year before I started posting on Facebook, and a while after that before Twitter. So this was kind of, when I started, it was just posting on my website, and fucking nobody saw that shit. Like, I had, 5 or 6 friends and family. My mom was probably like 90% of the like audience at that point. So this was before social media was even like a thing, really, where people posted artwork.
I can relate with my YouTube videos. My mom to date is the only one that shares my videos every time. And she doesn't even speak English.
Good.
Mike, listen, I know that you're a very modest person, actually too modest as far as I'm concerned. But, let's not beat it around the bushes. You have skills that we don't want to call them skills, but you got something that a lot of other designers don't have and struggle to find. Do you know what that is? And I'm asking just because I know that a lot of people watch my videos to look for guidance. And in a world of social media that it's full of noise, this guidance becomes really difficult to find. So I'd like you to expand a little bit on that, so that maybe, somebody could really use the advice to kind of start something for their own.
Sure. I mean, everybody has something that nobody else has. I mean, I have something that nobody else has 100%. And you have something that nobody else has. And every other person has something that nobody else has. And I think people are maybe, in some respects, a little too concerned with that to some degree, that they're sort of like, I got to find my voice. What is my voice? What is the thing that only I can do? And to be honest, I'm not that concerned about that. I'm not concerned about finding my voice. I don't really know what my voice is. And what my voice is today is going to change from 5 years from now, from 10 years from now. So you're chasing a moving target. So being too worried about like what your style is or what you're doing different than anybody else in the world, I just wouldn't do that. I would try to focus on technique and getting better at just skills. Like, that's something that's a little more concrete, and it's a little more, it's just less sort of, I need to find my voice and I need to be this unique butterfly. It's like, no, just fucking get better at modeling. Like, one, you can fucking make money doing that. And, if you never find your beautiful angel voice. So I think, like, just trying to fucking get better at, like, doing real shit, and putting out work. Like, you will naturally make something different than anybody else, because you are different than everybody else. So I wouldn't worry too much about that shit. And I feel like that can hold people back from putting out work, because they think, oh, this isn't different, or this is, too close to this person's work, or blah, blah, blah. My shit is like like I do a lot of science fiction stuff. Everything's a fucking ripoff of Star Wars and Blade Runner and fucking Ghost in the Shell and, you know, all this shit. It's like, my stuff is not that different from any of that stuff. It's a total fucking ripoff of that shit. Like, trying to act like, you know, anybody's voice just comes out of a fucking cloud of originality. It's like, fuck that. Like, everybody is inspired by other people. So I think working on technique and putting out work, those are the things you should worry about. Don't worry about being good or this or that. Worry about not putting out work.
You're right. There is so much social pressure, which I honestly don't even know where it comes from, because if you go to any art school, architecture, product design, the foundations when you study those courses is for you to copy the work of the people that you like, you know? And it's like, do it 1-to-1. And we had to do paintings, we had to do axonometries, all that kind of stuff, you know? So, I don't know.
I mean, if you could fucking copy a goddamn Rembrandt 1-to-1, I don't care if you have any fucking voice. If you could sit down and fucking paint a Rembrandt and it looked exactly like that motherfucking Rembrandt, you'd probably be fine. You'd probably be pretty good. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about the voice. That'd be probably pretty fucking impressive to a lot of people.
Mike, to date, and feel free to answer from a personal point of view or from a professional point of view, what do you consider being your biggest achievement?
I guess I'd probably just say the everydays in general. Just, you know, we're coming up on 12 years here, so I would say that's probably the one thing that I would say sort of stands out as, you know, the biggest sort of like body of work, because I look at it as one sort of big ongoing project. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing, I guess.
Can I ask you something? I've been following your work for a while, and it was always very good because, you know, it was impressive to see the amount of work that you were producing. But I think that it started to really take off when you introduced this little, like, political, satirical component to it. And, you know, I might be totally wrong, but I'd like you to expand a little bit on this.
Yeah, I think that's something that's sort of like, I watch the news a lot. I have the news on all day. I actually have 2 TVs right here with the news on all day. And it's just something that I find interesting, just kind of knowing what's sort of going on in the world. And so I think that is usually with the pieces where I have some sort of semi-political message or this or that, it's usually meant to be a bit more funny than I think some people take it. It's usually meant to just sort of be this sort of like humorous thing. It's not like, sometimes I'll put in company logos or, you know, Amazon or Google or Facebook or something, and it's not meant to be like, oh, fuck Facebook, you know. It's like, okay, like, it's meant to be like a bit of a, it's fantasy. So it's usually a bit more, it's not like I'm trying to make this real political statement about, you know, something that's really going on now that I care about, which a lot of artists do. That's not really it. It's more like, this is just like a weird sort of fantasy, science fiction sort of take on maybe some things that are going on now, or maybe some things that are like, you know, could happen in the future.
But it's funny because it always starts a discussion in a way or another. I mean, do you read your comments at all?
I usually, to be honest, try not to.
Yeah, I figure so.
Just because it's sort of like, I feel like the feedback can be good or bad. Sometimes when it's just like, you know, comment after comment, like, you're the best, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, yeah, which is nice. I appreciate that. But it's like, I think that can kind of screw with your head a little bit and kind of like maybe make you think you're better than you are. So it's like, I don't find that to be super helpful. And the same is kind of true of the opposite. So news sucks. And it's like, okay, you know, those are the ones that stand out a lot more, that I think can be a lot more sort of, you know, you could have fucking 30 comments of this is the fucking greatest thing ever. And then that, you're just scrolling through them and then it's like, this sucks. And it's like, whoa, stop everything. What the fuck is this? who the fuck is this motherfucker? You know, and then you look it up and it's just some fucking like high school jack-off kid from like wherever, and it's like, okay, why the fuck am I listening to this kid? Like, this kid he doesn't fucking know anything. It's just a dumb kid. So it's like, that's not really helpful either. So that's kind of why I, to be honest, try and avoid the comments, which sometimes sucks because occasionally I'll see them and people will post like either like a little story or something, or like something like really like cool or interesting, where it's like, I wish I could somehow just filter out the like worthwhile comments and just like all of the other like garbage, just kind of turn it off.
It's so true. I've read a couple myself, and it's really like, I mean, it really shows you, you know, all the sides of the internet. Some of them were really, really interesting. Like, they build the narrative for the kind of work that you do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Yeah, and it's really cool. And it's like, oh, man, that's like... And sometimes it's like, oh, I never thought of that. Or it's like a really cool thing. But it's like, those are very rare compared to the, like, more not so... useful comments, I guess.
Yeah, and also sometimes like people simply just like, I don't know, they react rather than interact, you know? I remember there was a work that you did, it wasn't a work, it was like a post where you said that you did some work for some designers, and I think it was Louis Vuitton, it could have been, I don't know, and then they posted it on like t-shirts, and people were like, what the fuck? They ripped you off, and I'm like,
yeah, probably should have commented on that because, to be honest, like a lot of times my wife or my mom will be like, oh, like if somebody's like commenting or a bunch of people are commenting, sometimes they'll say something to me, and they told me like everybody thinks you got like ripped off, and I probably should have been like, no, I got paid. Like they licensed this, they didn't just like, I think people don't realize, like, big, like, legitimate companies won't do that.
No,
like,
of course not.
No, they're not going to, like, take the chance because, to be honest, the amount that they fucking paid me versus how much they can fucking make off this shit is just a drop in the bucket. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll just pay the kid a little bit of fucking money. He'll be fine.
They get the money like this.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, there you go. Like, that's, you know, it's nothing to them.
Mike, believe it or not, we've been going at it for 40 minutes already.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I'm gonna let you go about your day, also because I think that my wife is already in the other room and my dog wants to get inside. We haven't seen her for a week.
Sure.
What is the one piece of advice that you will give to those who look up to you and kind of would love to do the same thing and develop a career the way you did?
I would say you can do exactly the same thing. Start doing a picture today. Like, you can do what I do. Like, that's how it started, and that's how it's still going now. That Louis Vuitton thing, those were all a bunch of everydays that they picked, and they were just like, oh, let's put these on fucking t-shirts. So I think it's you don't need anybody's permission to do this. You don't need any sort of, you just have to start doing work. Like, you don't have to like, oh, I need this job to be able to do this thing and meet this person or blah, blah, blah. Nope. Just sit down and start doing work. And, you know, and I think the other thing is to be patient, because I've been doing this, again, you know, the everydays have been going on 12 years. And I probably was doing artwork, like personal work, for almost 10 years before that. So, I mean, I'm coming up on, you know, I've probably been doing personal work, artwork for 20 years now, over 20 years.
Wow.
So it's been, you know, quite a while that I've been doing shit like this. So I think I think patience now, and to not worry about all the fucking social media noise, because it's not, you know, helpful a lot of the time, and it's just like a distraction, and it's tough because it's very easy for me to say that, but I get distracted by it plenty of times. So don't think that it's like, you know, I think a lot of people do. I think it's very, very distracting for a lot of people, and I think that's human. and to not, beat yourself up over that, but really try to sort of like keep that in check. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just sit down and do work. It's a boring answer, but it is what it is.
Well, it's the real answer. Mike, listen, I feel like your middle name should be Motivation, but it's probably too late. What are you? You are like 37, 38, right?
37, yeah.
37. So you're really young.
37.
I don't know. To me, you are still one of my biggest inspirations. And if we talk about my own achievements, the biggest one of my career was definitely having you at the D2 as one of the speakers. It was beautiful, man. And I think that, people, they really enjoyed your presence. They enjoyed your humor and they enjoyed the art that you produce. So, for that, I feel like I'm blessed knowing you. And I want to thank you for taking the time for doing this interview with me. I really hope that people are going to get inspired from this. If you want to say hi, if you want to say goodbye, this is the time. I'm going to stop the recording. Don't go anywhere, and then I'm going to thank you once again.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the chance to be on the interview, and, hopefully there was some tiny nugget of semi-useful information in there. And, yeah, I'd say thank you, sir.
You